Hey, everybody, it's Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News. And I'm very pleased to have my good friend Detta Donoghue of Computer Instruments. Detta, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're going to be talking about something that is a big part of everyone's life, whether or not you're in telecom. I think it's almost a daily experience. We experience the auto attendant. There are good auto attendants, there's bad auto attendants, and now we have AI auto attendant. I'm not sure if AI has necessarily improved things. We're about to find out. So, Detta, before we jump into all that, what is Computer Instruments?
Computer Instruments is a software developer. We've been around for 40 plus years. We were very early on in the IVR world and have brought it up to today's standards and latest technology, which you mentioned, artificial intelligence, coupled with global language assistance and self-service and automation, all rolled into a single platform called the Virtual Concierge.
So we're going to be, and we literally have a little slide deck to look at that. But I wanted to start with something you told me just before. We're trying to figure out why is this such a significant thing, and you actually had an experience. You had a story that I think brings us home.
I did, like a lot of people these last few years. I have moved, and I was having to go through hoops of all sorts trying to update my addresses. Well, part of that process is also getting final billing. So I called my utility and I got the greeting, which was very lovely. And they gave me some options and I pressed 4 and I thought I was all set. Well, 4 led me to another menu that gave me another 5 options. And I finally found the one I wanted. So I pressed 5 for that one. And God, lo and behold, believe it or not, I went to a third menu. Well, by now I'm frustrated with the amount of information that was being pushed at me when all along I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and that was to change my address. The frustrating part was when I finally got to where I wanted to go, it was a holiday and the office wasn't open. That information should have been delivered right with the greeting. And so that sort of started a larger conversation between myself and my colleagues at Computer Instruments to get us to the point where let's do something about this. Let's start educating people the difference between the auto attendant of days of old and what an AI attendant can do for you today.
Now, it's amazing, as I have a feeling almost everyone listening or watching this has had the same experience. And you're wondering to yourself, why is this experience you just described? It sounds like 1974. It sounds like 1984 or 94. It doesn't sound like 2024. We're stuck.
It's funny you say that because I'm sure most of the people listening may not have experienced this, but back in the day, we used to dial 411.
Right.
And there would be a voice come back, say, city and state, please. And nobody ever hesitated to answer that. That started us off on a very, very good and productive and a streamlined way to get information. Sadly, when call processing came about in early IVRs, that's when, let's make it a little more complicated and we'll look smart by getting them to press 1 for this or press 2 for that. So even though the technology has advanced, the speech has advanced, the intelligence has advanced, a lot of people are still choosing to use the older methods of pressing 1 or pressing 2. We're finding that needle moving so that you can have a conversation. It can literally be conversational with an AI attendant as opposed to just a digital exchange with an auto attendant.
So, Detta, I think we have some slides to show that actually illustrate what you're talking about.
An AI attendant can be as simple and straightforward as you want it to be, or it can gather information through the intelligence that it's built with in order to, I don't know if disambiguate's the right word, but to narrow in on the information to get people to their final destination. For instance, what we're looking at right now is calling any company, ABC company, and you hear a voice say, "Thank you for calling. How can I help you?" That's the very first thing you should be asking the caller, because I will tell you, 100% of the people that have dialed your number know why they dialed your number. So let them tell you, what do they want to do? I want to speak with Doug Green. I want to speak with billing. I want to change my address, whatever it might be. And that call gets right to the target that it's intended to get to without having to listen to a lot of nested menus.
So that's the right, that is an old method of answering the phone, and yet it's the correct one as far as you can see.
It's the artificial intelligence that mimics the operators of old, again, with that 3-ring binder at their desk and at their fingertips. Because an artificial intelligence, an artificial intelligent attendant has access to all of that information as well. So that's what makes it much easier.
And let's stay on this point, because I think this is actually really huge. The frustration we get starts to build right at this moment. I've probably been to your website.
Yeah.
I've probably attempted to change my flight. I've probably attempted to change my address or whatever I'm trying to do. I ran into a problem, and now I'm running into this huge tree of choices, including also your call is important to us, and our options have changed. I've never called you before. Lots of stuff.
And you're exactly right. And another thing to keep in mind, Doug, is people just don't want to touch buttons anymore.
Right.
Everything is through speech. So have that conversation and let them know up front you're going to listen to their request and you're going to do everything you can to make it happen the first time around.
And I am in my car and I am driving and I am late for that dental appointment and I can't touch the screen to get to the menu, right?
Exactly.
All right. So let's go and take a look at what you were talking about here a little bit more.
Okay. So the AI Attendant, by its very name, has intelligence built into it. So you can use it and deploy it and design it as an auto attendant with intelligence, or you can take it a little step further and target specific lines within a business so that it's sounding like a dedicated service. In this case here, we have a company that is using the AI attendant to help employees just call in and record their absence or ask a request for a day off. And the intelligence comes in because that call is answered by addressing the person. It's taking the number that they dial from and they know who it is. And then they're going to confirm who they are by asking them to authenticate themselves. And that's typically using an employee number. So this is sort of let's say like the next phase to a traditional attendant, where I'm going to say, I want to speak to Susan Smith and I get transferred to Susan Smith, or I want to speak to billing and I get sent to billing. Now we're targeting specific departments with their own attendant to fulfill a specific purpose. And in this case, it's an employee service.
So let's get back to that example of a very common, right, for utility. Here's Detta.
Yep.
After many years in her home, she's moving to a new home. She just wants to change her address. Can you program that attendant with AI to, how would that experience work? You've called. What's going to happen now with that call?
Well, again, keep in mind, the first question we're asking when I call, and I've called the utility, it says, how can I help you today? And I would respond simply by saying, I want to change my address.
Okay.
At that point in time, from a company perspective, you have a couple of different directions you can take. the AI attendant can just transfer you over to perhaps the billing department to help you with that request. Or it will also function as a virtual agent. And you would have the ability then to converse with the virtual agent. They would confirm who you are. And once you have been authenticated, you could just give you change of address and hang up.
And the customer, I sort of put this in, the customer, like you said, I know what I need. I just want to change my address.
Exactly.
Right. So this gets, again, back to actually sort of an old fashioned stance, which is, hey, Detta, why are you calling me? How can I help you? Right.
Exactly. And one thing that we haven't asked, to me, there are a few things that have to take place up front. And it all depends on the type of business you are, and it all depends on the demographic of your customer. A lot of companies now have customers whose primary language is not English. Okay, so some companies may want to position right there at their AI attendant. Thank you for calling us today. Can you tell me your primary language? I'm going to put a pin in that for a second and revert back to my own example about changing my address. Without exception, every single database that I went in and updated with my new address also now had a field for me to fill out, that says, or asks, what is my primary language? So now built into your profile or your record for most companies that you will be dealing with on a weekly, monthly, daily basis is collecting that data with the anticipation that they're going to be able to converse with you after that first hello in your primary language.
What are we looking at here?
Well, this is now the next step in the evolution of the AI attendant. And we've already spoken about the simple, hi, can I help you? Get transferred to the department you want, do your business and hang up. We've talked a little bit about having a focused attendant for particular departments to perform a function. But now let's take a step back and take a look at some of our critical services. Utility, a gas company. They, especially here in the Northeast with the storms and everything that we have, there are services that are disrupted all the time. And the ability not to be put on hold to get a busy line, but to go in and work with the AI attendant, who will also act as a virtual agent. You can report what your problem is, report a gas leak, report a down line, and that virtual agent will go through the steps that they need to identify who you are, and will also, by the way, send a message over to the repair team to get that ticket in there and get them out and on the road as quickly as possible. But in addition to that, it'll provide you some what I call triage information, if you choose to give it. Everything is with that caveat. Should you choose to get a little bit more instructive in the conversation that takes place, you have that option.
And going the other way, is the AI aware of you? So one of the things that I think a lot of us have experienced, so I'll give kudos to Delta Airlines if I can. They seem to know when I call, hey, is this about that flight to Orlando? Right? They know who I am. They know that I'm flying to Orlando, and there's a logical question that they're asking me right away. And so that's impressive versus some other companies who I've even had the experience of, they've called me, I'm calling back, and nobody knows why they called me. It's a blank.
Right, because there's no real intelligence there to capture your information.
Right.
That ANI, or automatic number identification, that is part of the transaction when you call a company. That information has been captured for years and years. only to last, I'm going to say 5 years, maybe a little bit longer. Applications are out there that is actually doing something now with that data that it's been collecting all these years.
And before we move on to your next thing, it seems to me this checks a lot of boxes. We're not just talking about Detta being happy with the functionality of changing your address. We're saying, even a power company has a brand
Yeah.
that comes that has value, that you're going to be really happy with them, more forgiving of them when there's an error or problem, when you feel that they know who you are, they take care of your problems, versus the frustration that you might have.
I think that there's a lot of fear that callers won't interact with an artificial intelligence. But, as we said in the outset, back in the days of 411, when that mechanical operator asked city and state, please, you never hesitated to answer that question.
Right.
Interestingly enough, recently I was sitting in a doctor's waiting room and waiting for my appointment, and I picked up a magazine, and it actually spoke to the evolution and adoption of intelligence in the healthcare industry. And it found, I'm sure, if you've ever been in the hospital or had tests, there's a lot of follow-up with surveys and whatnot. They found that people that took those surveys from a virtual agent or using the artificial intelligence to collect that survey information were far more forthcoming with the information that they needed to gather, as opposed to speaking with a live agent. So this is bleeding over to other practical areas for businesses of all kinds. And it's all because the adoption rate is there. The technology is there. I think we just have to learn to be smarter in how we use it and how we design it.
And then this leads, you have here on this slide, to applications. You were talking about healthcare, where this type of the AI attendant that you're talking about can be deployed in very specialized applications.
Absolutely. The health insurance industry is leading the way, as far as I'm concerned, in this area, and has made it so much easier for both subscribers and providers to call in and find out, if a test is covered by the benefits that I have on my health plan, or, has this particular test been approved? We all have to be our own healthcare advocates these days. And this type of application, where you can speak to intelligence that can identify who you are through the information that the AI attendant is gathering, and other applications that you can couple with that, makes it much easier, quicker, more secure. And you know what? You're going to have a happier caller on your hands when they can get in and out successfully.
So, Detta, can anyone even afford this, though? The change that you're talking about?
It is, CI has been very proactive in making sure that whether you're in the SMB market, you're a Fortune 100 government agency, each one of these entities that I've mentioned is using a CI product today. And that's because it is designed specifically for the entity that is going to be deployed at, and priced accordingly.
So, Detta, in the real world experience, companies sort of get merged all the time, and you have sites that are totally cloud, hybrid sites and prem, and all sorts of arrangements. Also, of course, you get a lot of different vendors in the mix. You'll have Teams and Cisco and Avaya and so on. What you're doing, will it work with all that?
CI is platform agnostic. So it's very common for us to go into a company that has gone through acquisitions, and there may be a Cisco out in the field someplace, a Avaya, or a cloud-based PBX. For us, we can do the prem only. We can do what we call partly cloudy, meaning premise to the cloud, or we can do fully cloud. The key is SIP is the common thread through it all.
And the experience will actually be on the surface for customer and employee the same.
From a caller perspective, they'll never know anything changed.
Right. And that's where we're wanting to go. We want that experience at the end of the day to be good.
Yeah, you talked about brand a few minutes ago. Nothing helps you enforce or reinforce that brand by keeping it simple, okay, keeping it functional, and a pattern that callers can get used to, and voila, brand loyalty.
Well, Detta, I really want to thank you for joining me today. This has been really interesting to catch up on a topic. I think that it's so central to the way a company is experienced by so many people, and yet it's often at the bottom of the list of what we are thinking about in terms of how we're going to, what we're going to do in the coming year, what we're going to do to improve things for our customers or the company we work for. Where can we learn more about CI? Where can we learn more about computer instruments?
I'm going to say two places. First is our YouTube channel, which has multiple examples of the AI Attendant, the AI Attendant working with specialized departments, and the AI Attendant working with specialized applications. Or you can go to our website at instruments.com, or give us a call and experience the AI Attendant yourself by dialing 888-451-0851.
Well, Detta, it's really great seeing you, and thank you for a great year, and thank you for joining us today. We didn't do a lot of auto-attendant stuff this year, so thanks for giving us an auto-attendant podcast about AI and about topics that are really meaningful. So thank you again.
Thank you, Doug. Take care.